Okay, I want you to take a look first, right before anything. We're on the stones. Now I want you to take a look at Perek Chaf Ches, Pasuk Chaf, 28:20, page 468. Now I'm going to move very quickly today, so I'll hold all the questions and comments for I want to cover a few things today, and then we'll take questions at the end. Okay, so it talks about the 12 stones. You got the rows of the stones, and each stone corresponds to one of the tribes of the Jewish people. There are 12 stones. What's interesting is we're in the month of Adar now. We're in the month of Adar Aleph. And in Adar Aleph, what's really interesting, there are 12 tribes and there are 12 months of the year. So each tribe corresponds to one of the months of the year. But what's interesting is that some years you get 12 months, sometimes you get 13 months, like this year. It's Adar Aleph and Adar Beis. And by the tribes also, interestingly enough, it depends how you count them, because you count 12 tribes, but there's another way, because there are 12 for the 12 basic tribes, but then there's another way to count the tribes, because the tribe of Yosef is divided into two. So if you count Menashe and Ephraim, and take out Yosef, put a Menashe, then you get 13. So you get this 13-12 fluctuation by the months, and you get a 13-13 fluctuation by the tribes. There's no accident. Where else do you get a 12-13 fluctuation? Correct. A girl becomes halachically responsible at 12, and a boy becomes halachically responsible at 47. A boy becomes halachically responsible. He becomes halachically obligated at 13. Halachically responsible, the word responsible male is an oxymoron. We're horrific. What can I tell you? Men are terrible. What can I tell you? So I tell you once I saw. I read this story. This husband and wife, they're married, a young couple. They have a baby. Baby's about 2 months old. So the couple goes to a wedding. True story. Couple goes to a wedding, and the wife gave the husband the stroller, the buggy, and he kept the buggy on his side at the wedding. The wife's on the other. There's a mechitza. I said, and they made up that they'll meet at the bus stop at 10:30 at night. They'll meet at the bus stop. Okay, so the wife goes out to the bus stop, and she's waiting. And at about 10:30, she's out there at 10:30, and about 10:32, 10:30, her husband comes sauntering over, and the wife looks at him, she goes, "Oh, where's the baby?" He goes, "Oh, right, the baby, I'll be right back." And he goes, he forgot the baby. He's eating kugel, and some way to go out. He had a couple of shots. He forgot the baby. So I read years ago. So I said to my wife when I read this, I said, what would have happened if, what would you have done if I'd have forgotten a baby? She goes, "You don't forget babies." I said, "No, but what if you don't forget babies. Babies are not sacks of sugar. You don't forget babies." There's a Gemara that says a woman never forgets her baby. Doesn't say that about men. How do you like that? He forgot his baby. And she got upset with me one other time because Reader's Digest had a story. They used to have this section called Drama in Real Life. You ever see that in Reader's Digest? It's like drama in real life. What we would say is how dumb people get themselves in really stupid situations. So it's always like somebody was, trapped on a glacier with nothing but a bagel. Or something like that. Some guy, or some guy got, he fought off he was walking with his girlfriend and he fought off a grizzly bear with a toenail clippers. Something like that. One of these dramatic. So one of the stories they once had was a woman got on a ski lift with a 4-month-old baby, and the ski lift malfunctioned and they were stuck up in the air, and this woman is up there with her 4-month-old baby. So, and I had bought my wife the Reader's Digest. Back in the day, it was a decent magazine. You could actually buy it. So I bought her the magazine. She got upset at the story. She's like, "What is she doing up there? You don't take babies on ski lifts. You just don't take babies on ski lifts, okay?" And she was upset with me. All I had done was buy the magazine. But it's my fault that this lady got on the ski lift with a 4-month-old baby. Okay, now Okay, take a look at in the middle of the page. It says Vehatur Haravi. It goes through the rows of the stones, the various stones. Yesterday we talked about what kind of gems they are, and then and it says Vehatur Haravi, Tarshish Vishoham V'Yashvei. Everybody see that? It's on page 468, or smack almost in the middle of the page. Pasuk Chaf. Vehatur Haravi, the fourth row. The names of the stones are Tarshish, Vishoham, V'Yashvei. And according to the Gemara, the Yashvei stone is the stone that corresponds to the tribe of Binyamin. That's the stone that corresponds to the tribe of Binyamin. Okay? Point number one. Now turn to Bamidbar Chaf Hei Lamed Tes. It's on 870. Chavav Lamed Tes. Right. Okay. Now look at Pasuk Lamed Tes. This is going through the various tribes. It's again in the book of Bamidbar is called Numbers because they're constantly counting the Bnei Yisrael. So here it's enumerating the tribes. Everybody got that? You're at 882? You see where you are? Okay. Now, if you look 5 lines from the top, it says like this. Bnei Binyamin lemishpachosam. These are the sons of Binyamin. Lebela mishpachas Abali, Laashbel mishpachas Ashbeli, Achir mishpachas Achirami. And then in Pasuk Lamed Tes, 8 lines from the top, it says like this. Lishfufa mishpachas Ashufami, Lechufa mishpachas Achufami. 882, 8 lines from the top. These are members of the tribe of Binyamin. Lishfufa mishpachas Ashufami, Lechufa mishpachas Achufami. Now, 3 words or less, 5 words or less. What stands out in that pasuk? You get 5 words maximum. What stands out in that pasuk? L'shufa mishpachas Ashufami, Lechufa mishpachas Achufami. In the tribe of Binyamin. 5 words or less. Repetition. What else stands out? What stands out in that pasuk? What jumps at you from that pasuk?
Names.
What's that?
Names.
What about them? What's unusual? Well, none of these names. I mean, Bali and Ashbel. None of these names are what we're used to. I don't know anybody named Ashbel. I don't know anybody named Shuchami. What is about the names that stands out? Every one of the names in that pasuk. What's that?
They have a pay.
They have a pay. Very good. Every name has a pay, and what Shfufam has 2 pays in it. And a pay. What letter? What a pay? A pay. There's 7 pays over here. Now, what is the word pay? What is a alf, beis, gimel? A peh is a mouth. A peh is a mouth. Pay, however you pronounce it, it's a mouth. This is the tribe of Binyamin. There are 7 pays in the tribe of Binyamin. Now, let's take a look. Ready to go for a trip? We're going to go for a trip. Okay. The first member of the tribe of Binyamin, who is Binyamin's mother? Rachel. Rachel. Now, Rachel has a very unique ability. Yaakov is about to marry her, and instead Leah is going in. And what does Rachel do when Leah is going in? She knows that it's Leah's. What does she do? She doesn't say anything. She doesn't talk. Right? Leah doesn't talk. She has a son named Binyamin. Binyamin knew about the sale of Yosef. It's his own brother. He knew about the sale, but he didn't say anything. He didn't talk. Eventually, they have a descendant. Their descendant is Shaul, King Shaul. Now, we mentioned this before. He was the first Jewish king. Shaul had gone on a trip, and he was looking for his father's donkeys. And in order to find the donkeys, they were having a hard time. So they went to the prophet. In those days, you went to a Navi, and the Navi could tell you where your donkeys are. It's a good thing to have a Navi around. You get a tip on the market, all sorts of things. And you go to the Navi, and he asked the Navi about the donkeys. And the Navi said to him, forget it. The donkeys were already found. But I got different news for you. You are the new king of the Jewish people, and Shmuel anoints Shaul as the king of the Jewish people. And then the Nach says, when he came home, he saw his uncle. His uncle says, "No, was herzach? What's new?" Val dvaram alucha lohigi. Didn't say a word about it being appointed king. I mean, if I was ever made king, I can't be because I'm a Kohen. I could be the Kohen Gadol, but I can't be the king. And the odds are still against me, by the way, as much as you, it's hard to believe. And I told you I want to be the Kohen Gadol because the others had to make him rich, but which is probably why I'm disqualified. And if I was appointed to be the Kohen, I wouldn't even take that. It wouldn't even take that. If they would just give me a promotion here at the yeshiva, when I would come over, my wife said, how was your day? Yeah, I got a promotion or a raise. Any good news, I'd be talking, you guys made king of the Jewish people. He comes home, he doesn't say a word. Number 3. Shaul has a son. His son is Yonasan. Yonasan knows where Dovid is. Shaul at that certain point was after Dovid, he tried to kill him. Yonasan, Shaul's son, knew where he was, and he didn't say anything. And Shaul had a daughter. Who was his daughter? Michal. And Michal was married to Dovid HaMelech. That Dovid was Shaul's son-in-law. How do you like that? The father-in-law was trying to kill his son-in-law. The father-in-law was trying to kill his son-in-law. And Michal knew where Dovid was. Do me a favor, just and he said, if you could flip the door or push it open so we get some air. She didn't say anything. Now, these are all 5 members of the tribe of Binyamin, right? Starting with Rachel. There are 2 more famous members of the tribe of Binyamin who don't talk. Who are they? Mordechai, and Esther. And neither of them mention the fact, they keep the secret that Esther is Jewish. You have 7 pays in the tribe of Binyamin. There are 7 mouths in the tribe of Binyamin. What does that tell you about the definition of a mouth? What defines a mouth? A mouth is not defined by how you talk. A mouth is defined by how you don't talk. That means a person who's always talking, like one of those electronic, those jaws. They have those jaws, those talking jaws that bounce around on the table. There was actually a woman we knew growing up who was stuck on automatic, and my younger brother nicknamed her Jaws. The movie Jaws had just come out, the boat with the shark. And my younger brother nicknamed her Jaws. And it was just stuck on automatic. And so the definition of a mouth is the ability to not speak. If you don't have the ability to restrain your mouth, that's not a mouth. That's an inverted vacuum cleaner that just spews out all the garbage that it's accumulated. That's not a mouth. That's just blowing stuff out. A mouth means the ability to not speak. Now, take a look over here. What page are we on? I lost the page. And Tetzaveh, what page? 468. 468. Now look at the stone of the tribe of Binyamin. Look at the stone of the tribe of Binyamin. Ve'atur Arvi, Tarshish, Vishoham, the Yoshve stone. Take a look at that word Yoshve carefully, gentlemen. And look at the word Yoshve. And divide it into 2. Put a line between the shin and the peh. What do you get? Yesh, peh. He has a mouth. That's the tribe that has a mouth. What an irony. Dafka, the tribe where nobody spoke is the one that the stone is yesh peh, that they got the mouth, because that's the definition of the mouth. That's the definition of a mouth. The definition of a mouth is the ability to not speak when you shouldn't speak. The Gemara says, the same way it's a mitzvah to say that which will be listened to, it's a mitzvah to not say that which will not be listened to. Sometimes in life you want to say something, you say, but it's not going to help. It's not going to help, so don't say it. But you want to say it. Yeah, I know you want to say it. There's an urge. Talking is an urge. Getting angry is an urge. Anger is an urge. No different than an urge to eat. The fact that you have an urge, we have to restrain our urge. I have an urge to pickpocket. I told you I think I would be good at it, right? But it's an urge. The urge has to be restrained. The fact that you have an urge has to be restrained. There's an urge to talk. V'yashfei, hiyesh peh. That's the definition. That's the definition of a mouth. The definition of a mouth. And sometimes in life, when you want to say something, that's a statement from the Gemara. The same way it's a mitzvah to say that which will be listened to, it's a mitzvah to not say that which will not be listened to. Okay, I remember I told you a story. There's this Hasidic Rebbe. The Hasidic Rebbe goes to visit a guy, the president of a bank. So the Rebbe goes up to the door, he knocks on the door, and this guy sees the Rebbe. Wow, the Rebbe's here with her. The Rebbe's there. There's an entourage also. And the Rebbe and his entourage come. The guy's wow, the Rebbe came to see me. So he opens the door. Please, Rebbe, come in. The Hasidic Rebbe says, Rebbe, please come in. So he goes in and he sits down. And the guy, there's a rule. When a dignified person is around, you don't start chatting with him. You wait for him to talk. So the Rebbe just sits there for about 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, he says, good evening, and he gets up and he turns around and leaves with the entourage. So the guy follows the Rebbe all the way to the guy's wondering, what just happened? The Rebbe came in, said good evening again, and he left. What happened? So the guy follows the Rebbe to his house. And he comes in, the Rebbe says, yes. He says, Rebbe, why did you come to visit me? He says, I came to do a mitzvah. He says, what mitzvah did you do? So the Rebbe says to him, I came to do the mitzvah of not saying that which will not be listened to. So the guy says to me, okay, and what would you have said if you would have been listened to? Well, a poor widow came to me and she said to me that the bank is foreclosing on her home, and I know you're the president of the bank, and I wanted to ask you to be able to waive the foreclosure and not foreclose on her. He says, Rebbe, I don't own the bank. That's why I didn't say anything, because I knew that you weren't gonna do it. Okay, we'll do it. So sometimes in life, it's a mitzvah to not say. Okay, now take a look at Perek Chav Ches, pasuk Lamed Aleph. What page? Chav Ches Lamed Aleph. 470. Okay, now this is what I want to get to today. Ve'asisa es me'il ha'ephod kilil techeles. You're going to make the me'il. There are different opinions on what. He has a picture. Where's the picture of the me'il? Where does he have the picture of the me'il? Oh, there it is. On 467 of the picture of the me'il. There are different opinions exactly what the me'il looked like. But okay, that's it. Now, if you look at the picture on 467, look at the very bottom of the me'il. It's a little subtle in this picture. But if you look at the bottom of it, you see little things hanging there, down at the bottom. You see those frills at the bottom?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see what they are. They're not tzitzis. No, we'll see what they are now. So you should make a me'il kilil techeles. Make the me'il completely of techeles. V'haya pirosho b'socho, you fold the head inwards. Safa iya lepiv saviv, there should be a rim around the mouth of the me'il. Maisei oreg, kifi tachra yelo lo yikorea. It should not be torn. That means there's a circular opening. It's not open down. Lo yikorea, which literally means not torn, means there's a circular opening and it's not torn down the front. Now, pay attention carefully. The me'il, remember I told you yesterday that each garment is an atonement for something. What is the me'il an atonement for? The me'il atones for Lashon Hara. The me'il is an atonement for Lashon Hara. Now, why is the me'il, which atones for Lashon Hara, why is the me'il blue? Why is it tcheles? What does blue remind you of?
Shemayim.
Before you get to Shemayim?
The ocean.
Water. What's unique about water? Water has a border. What's the border? Sand. The me'il reminds you of water. This, like water has a border. A person's mouth should have a border. And that's why every word in this pasuk, look how every word in pasuk Lam Beis, the haya pirosho bisocho, the opening should be folded back in, make a rim. Again, we should try to keep things inside. Safa iya lepiv saviv. It should have a rim around its mouth. I mean, can't get more blatant than that. You should have a rim around our mouth. Maise orek ivitara lo yikorea. It should not be torn. That means it shouldn't be wide open down the front. That means a person's mouth shouldn't be wide open down the front. I heard a story once. This guy goes to California for the gold rush. You ever heard the story? Guy goes to California for the gold rush. He's there for a couple of years. He's there with his daughter. He goes from the east. He goes all the way to California, San Francisco for the gold rush in 49. And he's, what do you call it? He's there for a couple of years and he makes some money, sells all the gold. He has a wad of cash. And him and his daughter, they get on the horse and wagon and they're heading back east after a couple of years. Guy's in a great mood. On the way, all of a sudden, a band of Indians comes out. They surround them. They tie him and his daughter up and they take everything. Okay, him and his daughter are all tied up. And finally, they manage to release themselves, and they sit down. They release themselves. He sits down on a tree trunk, and he starts crying. His daughter says, "Dad, why are you crying?" She says, 2 years of work, they stole everything, and they stole all my money. And the daughter says, "No, Pa." She reaches into her mouth, and she pulls out the entire wad of bills. She says, "As soon as I saw the Indians coming, I took the money and I hid them. I put all the money in my mouth. They got it. They never got the money. And the father goes, wow. He gets up, starts dancing. Wow, I have such a smart daughter. You saved everything. And he's dancing around. And all of a sudden he stops suddenly. He sits down on the tree trunk. He starts crying again. His daughter says, Pa, why are you crying now? He says, well, I wish your ma would have been here. She goes, why? Because if ma would have been here, we could have saved the horse and wagon. Yeah, there are people like that in the world. It always gets a delayed reaction. But yeah, and you know people like that. You know people like that, constantly putting their foot in their mouth. Right? They can be constantly saying the wrong thing. Constantly saying, can't ever. I heard about a woman who had a child. The child had some sort of genetic. He had a genetic issue, and this woman was pregnant. She's 7 months pregnant, and she's walking. 7 months pregnant means you're pretty pregnant. And she's walking along, and this other lady sees her, and she looks at the child, and she looks at her. She sees she's pregnant. She looks at the mother, and she says, this kid was severe genetic problem. And she looks at the kid, and she looks at the lady's stomach. She looks at her, she goes, aren't you worried the next one's going to be like this one? So this woman, to her credit, smiled at her, and she said, no, whatever Hashem gives me, I'll be happy with. But this is a woman, somebody let her out of her cage, for the day, so she could go around. You're a walking nuisance. You're dangerous. Could you imagine? And there are people in life who often say, there are often things that people say where there's absolutely no benefit for it. If somebody says, my grandpa had a heart attack. He had a minor heart attack. Somebody says, I once read minor heart attacks are followed by severe strokes. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for cheering me up. Yeah. What do you have to say it for? What is it? Why is it necessary? Sometimes in life there's nothing you can do about it anymore. What do you want from me? I can't do anything. Had you told me in advance, it'd be one thing. What are you telling me for? So I heard this is very powerful. These two seminary girls are sitting on a bus, and one of them says to the other one, I heard Chani got engaged. And the other one says to her, oh boy, yeah, I heard, I feel sorry for her chassan. She goes, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, she's loud and she's boisterous and she's a slob and she just thinks about herself and she's this, and she wears too much makeup, and for 10 minutes, they really let into Chani. I mean, they really unload. Okay, they're sitting there, and there's a woman, they get a tap on the shoulder, and they turn around, and this woman is sitting behind and says, girls, I just want to tell you, I've been listening to your entire conversation for the last 10 minutes, and that chassan Ephraim, I'm his aunt, and I'm going to be sure to pass along the information. And the girls are like, no, we didn't mean, no, we were just, we meant sloppy in a creative way. Too late, you said it, we heard it. And they're sitting there now, they're just chalishing. They're just sitting there stewing away. And after a couple of minutes, the woman rings the binger on the bus, and she gets up, and the door's open. She's about to get off the bus, and she turns to the girls, and she says, girls, I just want to tell you something. I'm not really his aunt, but I could have been. And you don't know who's listening in life. You don't know who's listening. The walls have ears, as they say. The walls. I heard another one. Oh, this is a good one. This is from Reader's Digest. I told you it's a font of wisdom. So there's a married couple. He invites his friend and his new wife over to the house. So they're sitting there together in the living room, and the wife, the hostess, she says I'm going to go check on the baby, and she goes up to the baby's room, and she calls down to her. She says, Bill. She calls her husband up to her. She goes, what happened to Charlie? I mean, how did he pick such a loser? I mean, look at that lipstick, and the lady, she's boring, she's ugly. She goes like the whole thing. Okay, she gets it off her chest. Then the two of them go back down to the living room, and there's a very uncomfortable silence in the living room. And the only sound is the staticky, crackling sound of the infant monitor, which they had left on the dining room table. Yeah, that's awkward. How do you like that? So you don't know who's listening. You don't know who's listening. You don't know who's listening. That's the rule. Now, 1 second. There's more. V'asisa al shulav at the bottom, pay attention carefully, rimone tcheles ve'argomen v'tolas shoni al shulav saviv. Now pay attention, I'm going to ask you a very hard question. You're going to make these rimonim pomegranates. These pomegranates, on the next page, they should have a better picture. There it is on page 472. Look at the bottom. And so the picture on 472. Those things with the little prongs sticking out are pomegranates. They look like made out of, they're hollow. They're a ball of fabric, hollow, and they're called rimonim, pomegranates. Tcheles ve'argomen v'tolas shoni, made of these materials, al shulav saviv, on the edge, on the rim of the garment, all the way around. Upamone zahav bisocham saviv. In between the pomegranates, there's a bell, a golden bell. Okay, so you have pomegranates, and between each two pomegranates, there's a golden bell. Now look what this says. Pamon zahav virimon, a golden bell and a pomegranate. Pamon zahav virimon, a golden bell and a pomegranate. Al shulei ha'me'il saviv. There are 36 of each, alternating around the bottom of the garment. What's the obvious question? Back on the previous pasuk, what's the obvious question? Now take a look at pasuk, the bottom question. Ask me the obvious question. 5 words or less. 10 words or less. Give you 10 words. V'asisa al shulav rimone tchez v'argaman shulav saviv. Upamone, now top line on 472. Upamone zahav bisocham saviv. A golden bell between each of the two pomegranates. What's the obvious question?
Why do we need the golden bells?
Yeah, the golden bells. We'll see what the bells are for. But what's there's a logical problem here. There's a logical problem. I told you, there are 36 of each, and they're alternating around the garment. The top line says, golden bells between them all the way around. There's a golden bell between each two pomegranates.
What do you mean one that isn't between?
No, 31 all the way around. One.
It repeats.
No.
2 times.
There's a golden bell between them all the way around. Well, if there's a golden bell between each two pomegranates, there's also a pomegranate between each two golden bells. Why does the Torah only emphasize the golden bell between the pomegranates? There's a pomegranate between the golden bells. Right? You hear the problem.
Yes.
And it's a blatant problem, and the Forshim ask it. And the answer is the Torah is telling you 2 things. The pomegranate is silent. The pomegranate represents silence. A golden bell represents noise. But it's telling you that when you speak and you make noise, make it golden. When you do make noise, it should be golden. It should be something positive. It should be something good. And it's also telling you, for every time you speak, you should be silent twice. There's as much pomegranates between golden bells as there are golden bells between pomegranates. But the Torah is telling you, you're right. But for every time you speak, you should be silent twice. That means a person should train themselves to restraint on speech. That's why the Torah says, now, look what you do with this. V'haya al Aaron l'shares. This, what do you call it? This garment will be on Aaron when he goes in, does the service. V'nishma kolo bivo'o el hakodesh. His voice will be heard when he enters the holy area. Now this, the Gemara says, we learn from here. That means when Aaron was coming, you hear bells ringing as he would enter the Beis HaMikdash. We learn from here, you don't walk into somebody's house without announcing yourself. There's a medrash that says, I think it was Rabbi Yochanan, when he went to visit Rabbi Chanina, so before he entered where Rabbi Chanina was, you hear making a noise, letting it be known that he's coming. And the Gemara says you don't go into somebody else's house without knocking on the door. You don't just open the door and walk in. And even in your own house, you don't open the door and walk in. As a rule, don't open a door of a closed room without knocking first. Why? Because somebody might be in that room doing something awkward. So you open the door and somebody's picking his nose. You're like, why is that? You know, what a person does in private. You open it, hey, oops. It's awkward for everybody. Knock on a door before you enter, even in your own home. Even before, sometimes people just burst the door open into their house. You give a knock to give everybody a warning. Knock on the door so your wife could quickly put down your wallet before you enter the house. And so you shouldn't catch her nipping at the credit card. You know, give a knock. Give a little bit of a warning. Give a warning before you enter a room. in case somebody's doing something awkward or embarrassing. That's what Gemara says. V'nishma kolo, even the Kohen Gadol, before he entered the holy, teaching us a lesson. Make noise before you go in. Make some sort of noise, make some sort of sound so you don't catch anybody off guard. But there's even more than that. The Torah is telling you this is a lesson for us. When is it that we use our voice for Kodesh? When we daven. When a person davens. The mouth, sometimes, we daven, and we're wondering, I've been davening, but for some reason my tefillahs aren't being answered. Why aren't my tefillahs being answered? So the Chafetz Chaim says, you know why? Because the utensil that you're using for tefillah may not be clean. Maybe the utensil that you're using for tefillah, maybe you have a problem. He compared. Now, I'm going to tell you an analogy. This is the Chafetz Chaim says, it's not me. Imagine you go to visit the king of England. Ellie, have you got a headache, by the way? Do you have a headache? Oh, okay, because if he has, Rabbi Salinger has pain relievers if you need. I have drugs. He's got pain relievers. So you choose your weapon. So the what do you call it? The Chafetz Chaim says, imagine the following. Imagine a guy you go to the Queen of England for a visit. Now there's a king, okay, but a queen at the time, Queen of England. What would you bring the Queen of England as a gift? What do you bring, unless you're Michelle Obama, who brought her some sort of music player? She brought her, what did she bring her? What's the thing called you play music on? Not something that could play music. What's that? Not a record. No. She brought her like an iPod or something. She brought the Queen of England an iPod. Michelle Obama. And the other thing is, but they have a rule. You don't touch the Queen. You don't shake the Queen's hand. Right? Michelle Obama gave her a bear hug when she met her. Can you imagine? The Queen was probably shocked as she could. But somebody told me something interesting. The Queen, whenever the royals get together, whenever there's like a banquet or something, a lot of people around, the Queen carries a purse. And she's talking to somebody, the ambassador from Australia or something. If she shifts the purse into her other hand, that's a signal for somebody to come over and then excuse her, or excuse him, move her on to something else. Here's the signal. It's good. Yeah, rabbis in yeshiva should do that. Okay, but put the shift the what do you call? That was a signal that they used. That's what somebody told me. So if you go to the Queen, what would you bring her as a gift? What would you bring? What do you think you bring the Queen as a gift? A bouquet of flowers. Imagine going to the Queen, and I got a big bouquet of flowers. But in order to present it, you need something to put it in. What do you call it? Like a flower pot. But you're a creative guy, so you decide, listen, I'm not going to do something, the old hat. I'm going to do something a little more creative. So you go to one of these Home Depot places, and you buy a brand new, shiny, clean enamel toilet. And you take the bouquet of roses and you put it fits right into the hole there. So, it's on a table. You put the bouquet around, and that's your flower pot. And creative, right? Very creative. And then you go, Excellency, this is for you. It wouldn't be appreciated. When a person is offering up a tefillah, if the mouth is a toilet, if the mouth is soiled, that interferes with the tefillah being heard. And that's why the Torah says over here, when a person has gold coming out of his mouth, there's silence and gold. When you do speak, it's golden. So then look what the Torah says, 3 lines from the top, on 472. V'nishma kolo bevo el HaKodesh. His voice will be heard when he enters into the holy areas. When you engage in Kodesh, in tefillah, when we daven, if we daven and our mouth is clean, then the davening will be, the mouth is gold, the mouth is clean. V'nishma, then Hashem will listen to our voice. Sometimes Hashem rejects our tefillahs because maybe I'm not using my mouth properly. I'm not talking nice, I'm not using my mouth properly. So when a person, what do you call it? Yeah, sometimes a bacher came, a yeshiva bacher, a mainstream yeshiva guy. He once came to Rav Shteinman Zatzal. And he said to Rav Shteinman, look, I've been in the yeshiva world my entire life. And I was always told by my rabbis in yeshiva that there's nothing there's the sweetness of Torah. If you learn Torah, you'll taste the sweetness of Torah. I used to hear that all the time. That's standard. You'll taste the sweetness of Torah. I've been in yeshivas my whole life. Rabbi, I've never tasted the sweetness of Torah. That's what he said to Rav Shteinman. He actually started out by saying to Rav Shteinman, do you ever see Rav Shteinman? You ever see a picture of Rav Shteinman? He's about as tall as this table. He ate 130 grams of cream of wheat for breakfast and for supper. That was his break, and a potato for lunch. That was his. He wasn't a big eater, wasn't a big drinker. It was about he lived to 103. But he was, and so this bacher walks into Rav Shteinman and he says to Rav Shteinman, do you enjoy steak? Comes to do you enjoy steak? A good, thick steak. Rav Shteinman looks and says, what steak? He never had a steak in his life. This man barely ate, barely survived. So the bacher says, just like you don't like steak, that I've always been told that if I learn Torah, I'll taste the sweetness of Torah, and somehow I don't taste the sweetness of Torah. So Rav Shteinman said to the guy, he said to him, what's the sweetest substance in the world? The bacher says, honey. He says, right. Now what would happen if you took honey and you put it in your mouth? You have a bunch of sores in your mouth and on your tongue. What do you call it? Canker sores, whatever it is. And you put honey in your mouth. What would happen? It would burn. It would burn your mouth. Then Rav Shteinman turned serious. He looked at the bacher. He said, if you have a mouth that's full of cuts, that's a soiled mouth, you can't taste the sweetness of Torah. Clean up your mouth and you'll taste the sweetness of Torah. That means it's the same mouth that we're using for Torah, the same mouth that we're using. And a person has to know and that could affect our tefillah. The Chafetz Chaim says sometimes we daven, we need something, and we're not getting answered. Hashem's not giving us what we want. So there are different reasons why. Sometimes the reason could be because our mouths are not clean. And therefore, a person cleans up the mouth. We don't use inappropriate language, crude, coarse language, or lashon hara, or any of the other things, insult people, whatever it is, that could affect the tefillah. Okay, one more point very quickly. Very quickly, then we stop. Turn to Perik, where is it? Chavches, 2828. One page back. And this is talk about the choshen and the ephod. The choshen is the chest plate, and the ephod is the apron, which goes most of it goes on the back. Okay, so the Torah says in 28:28, very careful, very quickly, 3 lines from the top on 470. The yirkesu es hachoshen. How does he translate for yirkesu? Attach the choshen mitabosov from its rings el tabos ephod to the rings of the apron bifsil techeles, with a thread of blue. Lios al cheshev ha'ephod, v'lo yizach ha'choshen me'al ha'ephod. The choshen should not, how does he translate it? Be loosened. It shouldn't move from the ephod. This is listed as one of the 630 commands, one of the 365 prohibitions. You're not allowed to move the choshen from the ephod. It shouldn't. And when the Kohen is walking around, it should go flopping around. It should be firmly attached and not separate, not loosened and not moved. And to remove it, to loosen it, is a transgression. Like we learned that pulling the poles out of the Aron Kodesh is also a transgression. It's a transgression. That's what it says. It shouldn't be loosened. Again, it's one of these things like it's one of the 365 prohibitions. Don't eat pork. And don't run into the Beis Hamikdash and loosen the choshen. In case you got that, or just restrain yourself. So the commentaries say, well, obviously Torah's trying to teach you a lesson over here. And the lesson is, there's something called order, seder, organization. If it's bouncing around, it's not neat. It's not orderly. Order, neatness is a Torah value. Sometimes Baruch Hashem, the guys around here, most of the guys around here are pretty neat, pretty orderly. Sometimes you see a guy walking around. He looks like he was caught. He was in a wind tunnel. He got dressed in a wind tunnel or something. And the guy just looks like he's absolutely, like the theoretical possibility of matter without form. It just total disarray. His whole essence is in disarray. His whole life is in disarray. His room, if you could even see the floor, is an obstacle course to get. How he gets from the door to his bed is amazing with spraining an ankle or getting his shoes getting stuck on the floor and coming off of his foot. And all day long, there's certain people who are always 5 minutes late to everything. In the course of the day, no matter where they go, they're always 5 minutes late. You almost get the sense if this guy would have gotten up 5 minutes earlier that day, he would have been okay. But he's 5 minutes late to class, 5 minutes late to the doctor, 5 minutes late to the bus, 5 minutes late to the plane, 5 minutes late to his own funeral. Everywhere he goes, he's late. Right? It's a disorganization, a complete disorganization. And the Torah, it's a value in Torah. It's a Torah value. A person should be neat, organized. It takes time to get organized, but a person, the more time you spend getting organized, you end up saving time. That I know from personal experience. I heard a story. There's one also. I heard this story when I was a little kid in day school. They told us that this kid, I've mentioned this before, this kid leaves home and he goes off to yeshiva. So he's off in a different city, and his father finally comes to visit him in yeshiva. So he flies from New York to Cleveland to go see how he's doing in yeshiva. And he goes there and he flies home later in the day and he says to his wife, yes, he's learning very well in yeshiva. So he says, wow, that's great to hear. Well, you spoke to the Rosh Yeshiva? He goes, no. Oh, so you spoke to his Rebbe? No, I didn't speak to his Rebbe either. You spoke to the Mashgiach? No, I didn't speak to the Mashgiach either. So how do you know he's learning well? It's because I went up to his dorm room and his bed was made properly. His shoes were neat under the bed. All of his clothing is folded. Everything in his room was in order. If his room is in order, that means his head is in order. And if his head is in order, that means his learning is in order. That means he's learning well. And sometimes you could look at the way a person lives their life. You could tell efficiency just the way a person's dressed. What they call about body language. You don't have to be a genius. Body language, there's also clothing language. There's all sorts of language. And you take one look at a person, you can see what's going on inside him. Organization is a Torah value. Neatness is a Torah value. It's derech eretz. Derech eretz kodmol Torah. Derech eretz precedes Torah. And a person has to have derech eretz in order to learn Torah properly. All right, see you guys.